Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, in this episode, we're going to pick up a little bit ways after the thing that happened at the end of the last episode where Phil ended up finding out that basically he's Talbert's new boss. And as expected, Talbert's not all that happy about it. He's actually pretty upset about the whole situation. It's like, why out of anyone you have to be my boss, And he's kind of been ducking and dodging Coulson, and Coulson kind of like in a sense, Coulson's been stalking him just because he can't get in contact with Talbot any other way. But basically, the whole situation is that they want to infiltrate a conference that's being held by different world leaders from different places around the world. They are meeting to talk about the whole Inhuman situation. It's a pretty big deal. So, wow. After the whole pleasantries at the beginning, we have Talbert's about to leave, but then the group notices that some body is following Coulson and Talbot, and that person turns out to be Creel. He's a guy you've met previously. For a second, I didn't remember who he was, but the moment Hunter brought him up, it's like, yeah, he was that dude. You're the reason why, like I lost a lot of friends. So, wasn't it back in near the beginning of season 2? Basically, the team he was working with, which included I don't know the character's name, but I know she was played by the lovely Lucy Lawless. His team got killed by this guy because he's also the one that touched the Terrigen, and it ended up messing with him a little bit. Like, it gave him powers, but he's not an alien. He doesn't have the alien DNA like everyone else does. But obviously, getting back to it, you have basically the entire team kind of gets the whole idea working with Creel. Obviously, Talbert's like, I trust the guy. He was being brainwashed by Hydra, and we unbrainwashed him. He's actually a pretty nice guy. But Hunter's like, no, the SOB's a bad guy. You can't trust him. He killed my entire team. But Coulson's like, okay, we're gonna let this go because Talbot said if Creel can't go, he won't go. So Coulson kind of goes like, okay, he can come, so that means you can go too, Talbot. So they end up going to the conference, infiltrating it, because Coulson's main reason for infiltrating it is because he saw this conference as an opportunity for Malik to strike, because Malik is trying to build up an Inhuman army, and that's kind of the best place to do it, because he'll obviously because he has someone on the inside that'll work in his favor. And the whole point of them going is to find that inside person, because they can use that inside person to track down Malik. But through a series of turn of events, we end up finding out that the inside man is Talbot himself, but not because he's willingly helping Malik. He's actually being blackmailed. Well, not blackmailed. Malik kidnapped his son and is holding him hostage. It's crazy just how easily he can sway people, because he manipulated the other people at the conference. He was like, oh, this is Phil Coulson, the head of Hydra. And it's like, he's the one with the Hydra connection, yet he's able to twist people so easily into believing, Phil was the bad guy. The other people there were just so quick to be like, nah, they're totally against Phil, because of the Talbot and Malik Malik working together, he was able to get information. He was able to steal information about S.H.I.E.L.D. and use it against Phil, kind of painting him in an even worse light. Basically, even when that's all said and done, Malik still ended up betraying Talbot, and was going to end up killing him and Coulson. And you had that moment where Creel actually shows up and, you know, actually kind of saves the day. He even saves Hunter at one point in the episode. Hunter's like, this doesn't kind of make us even. This doesn't mean I believe that you're a good guy or whatever. But it's kind of interesting. Like, I was so sure that he would be, like, a bad guy. But I don't know. I mean, because they twist the whole thing to make you think that, especially because Hunter is so sure that he was a bad guy. So Hunter was like so keen on looking after him. He was more focused on looking after him than doing his job. And I do love a line between Hunter, May, and Bobby, because basically they were at this conference, so they couldn't bring any weapons, but Hunter snuck their weapons in, and Bobby's like, I love you. And then May's like, I don't hate you as much. I love it. Because she even said earlier in an episode, like, she doesn't look at Hunter as a friend. He's like, I'm a friend that's got your back. She's like, we're not friends. She's like, I'm still got your back no matter what. But so it's like, which I'm wondering, is that stemming from the whole not killing Ward when he had the chance thing, especially because it endangered her husband, Andrew, which at the time it's like, well, Andrew ended up being Lash, so not that big of a... But maybe on some level she still holds him accountable for that, or maybe she just doesn't like Hunter. Have you ever had any interaction, like, a lot? Like, I don't know, like, he has his moments of other people in the team, but it seems like I don't think I've ever seen him really interact too much with May. A very interesting development came up in this episode where Fitz and Simmons were studying Creel's blood. Like I said, he's kind of a special case because he doesn't have that alien DNA inside of him. And it turns out that his blood has a very special effect, that he can reverse the effects of, like, Terrigen. Like, you know, the Terrigen ends up awakening people's powers. And not just like, once someone's power is activated, it can't reverse it in that sense. But before that person's powers awaken, before they come in contact with Terrigen, it can be used as kind of like a prevention method. It's like getting a flu shot. You get a flu shot just to make sure you don't catch the flu. It's kind of the same. It works in that same way. His blood can help people, prevent people from becoming Inhumans, which leads to a very interesting debate between Daisy and Lincoln. Lincoln is like, he's kind of looking at it as a good thing. He's like, this means you can stop people from just randomly becoming Inhumans. Daisy's kind of like, no, that's, you know, that basically their powers is a birthright. You know, it's wrong to take that away from someone. And Lincoln's like, we should give people a choice. It should be their choice whether they want to accept this or not. Because let's take Andrew, for example. Don't you think Andrew would have liked the choice? I mean, he became Lash, so it's like, you know, and because in his mind, he's like, there needs to be a balance, you know, because the sporadic nature of Inhumans popping up is throwing everything out of balance. There's a lot of people out there with dangerous abilities, and it's like, in the past, like, even Daisy's mom, like, kept everything under control. That's why only certain people got their powers awakened. It's because, you know, now that, like, you know, powers are spreading kind of like wildfire, it's leading to, like, a lot of problems. So he thinks there should be a balance to it. And Daisy's, like I said, thinks it's a birthright. But they kind of come together because he's like, to him, the powers are very unpredictable in the sense of, like, you need to be steady. You have to be yourself, be balanced to kind of let your powers not, you know, be completely out of control. Because that's something we've seen, like, it's something that's popped up throughout the episode. It's like, you'll see his hands kind of randomly spark up, and he kind of tells Daisy, like, he can't, like, reach his kind of zen balance. He's like, Daisy's kind of got it down packed. You don't ever see her powers kind of, like, going out of, like, her control, but he himself, he'd always kind of kept, like, a calm, like, a stable mind. But, you know, things as they are now, he's just kind of like, he can't find his way back to being balanced. So it's kind of an interesting. I wonder, will that, like, turn into something else later on? Because I kept noticing that. I've noticed that at the beginning when he was trying to, like, attack Creel. Like, I didn't know whether maybe he was continuing to attack Creel because he was just trying to actually legitimately kill him, or was he kind of losing control of his powers at that point and he couldn't really stop them? That's what I was thinking, but I don't know. I feel like that's going to turn into something later on. But maybe it ends up being nothing. So. And another pretty big part in this episode is the whole ward situation. I don't know what that thing's name is called. I think I've heard, where was it? Somewhere I heard it's Hive. Is that what its name is? I don't know. Whatever that thing is. It kind of talks about Ward a little bit. It's like I wish I had gotten to know you because you are like the perfect vessel. And we had that very interesting conversation where Malik is like, "Oh, we could get you a more suitable hosting body," you know. And the creature's like, "Oh, are you offering yourself, Malik? Because you do realize you'd have to be dead." He's like, "No," and he ends up offering one of his men. He's like, "How about my man?" He's like, "You could use him," and then. He specifically, I think he was talking about the telekinetic guy, and that guy kind of had like a what the fuck kind of look on his face. But apparently, this creature can't inhabit the body of Inhumans. I think he can control them and obviously lead them, but he can't possess his brethren. Because I did completely forget about the fact that he is actually an Inhuman, or has that really ever come up? I didn't know if that really came up, what he is, but he himself is an Inhuman, so he can't infect his brethren and possess their bodies. Basically, he ended up having the telekinetic dude bring him 5 like ordinary people who were in pretty good conditions, and he did that thing he does, where basically that whatever that is that comes off his body, it looks like a swarm of little insects or whatever, comes around his body. The camera leaves the room and all you hear is screams. And at the end of the episode, you see him like eating the flesh, like he had eaten the flesh off of those people. There was not a piece of flesh left on those bones. And it looks like he's fully regenerated. So does this mean he's back at full strength? I don't know. After the whole situation at the conference, we also had Malik leaving. He had left with that Russian guy, which it seems like the Russian guy is pretty, the Russian leader, he seems pretty okay because he does legitimately want to make a safe haven, apparently, for all the Inhumans, because he is trusting Malik, which is kind of sad that he does, but at the very end we find out that Bobby and Hunter had snuck aboard, so they're trailing him. Well, not really trailing, they're right underneath his nose, following him back to his base of operations. So it's going to be interesting to see where all these developments take us. But that's all I really want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.